can start working on this part. So let's just kind of go through the process. That's kind of the setup I've thought of, and then we'll discuss it. So first thing you do, sign up. All right. What does sign up need? Um, I have for the first version of sign up written email, password, and then password again. I know we discussed logging with GitHub and Google. Could that be done in this V2 or would that be more V3?
I would say that would be V2.
Okay, I didn't know how difficult or whatever that's to set up.
Me neither, but
It's doable.
Doable.
Okay. All right, so then if their email or password isn't found, we're gonna need some sort of error message, and then a prompt to try again, and then maybe some sort of locked after a certain amount of attempts thing. I wrote that down, maybe V3. I don't know how hard it is to do that either. Anyone have an idea?
Would that'd be from the back end, right?
Yeah.
That'd be
How would the front end know how many times? Also, they could just reload the browser, right?
Yeah, unless you store it in the cookies.
Fair.
But
Then they
that
can
would
just clear the
last
cookies.
forever. But yeah, so that would be back end. So that's your guys' call, and that would be based off the response you sent back. Do we need that?
I mean, it'll prevent people from being able to get hacked.
It's more to me, I wrote down as V3 because it's not as big of a priority,
Yeah.
but also because I didn't know how tough it would be from a dev perspective.
I mean, I feel like we could encompass everything with authentication in V2 that we can think of right now. I mean, how hard would that be to implement?
No idea. I assume on their account we could just add a field that would be an integer to see how many times they've tried
Logged
to.
in a certain period of time, and
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
been past the period, then clear it.
Yep. It's doable. I think so. My thought process on V2 is that we're going all the way with V2, so we can have all the features we want. We just prioritize them, right?
Yep.
So
Okay.
I like that you're thinking for a V3, but
Yeah, I would say V3 is in my head is things that aren't as high priority for sure. Is that kind of what you're thinking too?
yeah,
We
just
could kind
basically
of
just
lay out all the
prioritize. Sorry, go
we
ahead.
can kind of lay out all the functionality now and then prioritize and see what we can get done in a set a kind of a goal, a certain time span that we want to do it in, and what we think we could do in that time could be V2.
I second that.
Okay. So maybe for now, keeping that logged or that locked functionality as a V3 thing. And then if we end up ahead, moving it up.
Also, should we be calling it? Should we start because we're just jumping major versions? I feel like the functionality we were discussing right now could be just a minor. But I guess that's more vocabulary when it comes to version control. 2.5. I don't know.
Versioning is a weird thing.
Yeah. I just feel like we're jumping major versions every deployment we're putting out right now.
Yeah. So to touch on that, when we get V1 out, if we can agree that V1 is 1.0.0 and that's the static thing that we're all working to just get out first, then it's just handling, I guess, do we want to add incremental changes on that, or do we want to do an overhaul right after that? If we add incremental changes okay, now you can log into the static site, or things like that, then I think we could do dot releases. But it seems like it's just going to be we're getting something up to get something up, that is kind of like a half release, and then the next thing is like similar. It's just a lot more functionality. So maybe we do a dot release. I'm open for that, but
I was saying for version 2, that could be that seems like a major release to me. But then after that, if it seems like we're just adding functionality.
yeah, I guess Sabian and Susie, I guess, are saying MVP versions. Like
I was going to clarify that. I was saying that in the chat last night. Does uh does V1, is that MVP, or are we putting V1 and V2 in the scope of MVP?
everything has been MVP. We have not been like explicitly referring to the release version candidate. Like we've just been talking about MVP versions. So the first version is this one that we're talking about. So yeah.
I think the delineation here is that V1 or MVP1 or whatever we want to call it is just so that we have something that we can start advertising and say, show people what our organization is basically the goal.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So moving on. So forgetting password. So what that will need is an error message, an email sent to the user, to like make a new password. Some screens designed for this creating a new password. And then a prompt to log in again for the user.
Is this all in HackMD?
Yep. You want me to send the link?
Yeah.
Putting it in the OneLeaf website channel. So something to add here, Suze, that I just thought about. I think so they hit the sign up button, and then they put in their username and password, or they log in with Google or whatever. And then before they get to the register page, we send them an email to validate. That way, no one can just sign up somebody's email. And then once they click that email, then it sends them to the registration page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they put in their email, their password again. They hit sign up or whatever, and then they're like, check your email or whatever, some sort of prompt screen that says check your email for something like email verification. Yep. And then they go to their email account. They find the OneLeaf email and then they click on it and then boom, they're in, essentially.
And it'll just like take them to the profile setup page.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So that is all sign up, just like basic sign up. That's covering all that. Moving into sign in. So if the user already has a account or if they're already a member, that will just need email, password, or the option to log in with GitHub Google, which we're now saying is in V2. Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
Awesome.
And they can interchange whenever they want. I believe Zach and I talked about this. Like if they log in, if they create their account with GitHub, we should still have a username and password or email and password for them. So that way, if they get locked out of GitHub or whatever, they can still log in.
Are they allowed to create their account with GitHub or Google?
See, I think we missed that, or at least I missed that discussion of logging in or sign up with GitHub or Google. Did we discuss that yet?
I'm not sure we have.
We haven't.
I think.
Well, I guess
I assumed that they had to put in their email and password, but could they just do like a sign up with Google or GitHub?
Yeah, we already have that working in the back end, or at least we did have that working and it's commented out.
Okay.
Wouldn't them just like signing up like with GitHub or Google, we'd be able to get their email from either of those. Would we need them to re-enter like an email and password anywhere?
We need them to set up a password, right?
Yeah, I think they give us, you'll get the email from GitHub or Google, but you're not going to get the password, obviously.
But do we need the password if that API is handling that authentication when we just need the token?
Well, that's the problem. Like if you're talking about them being able to log in with that same email, even if they're locked out of GitHub, for example, like how do you handle that now? Because they've never used a password. they've never set up a password before because we've only gotten the token from Gmail or GitHub or whichever one. Like, how do you reconcile that?
Should we instead just have them log in using email and username, and then allow them to connect their GitHub later?
That might be
when
the
setting up
easiest approach.
profile?
But the problem with that though is how you'll have to filter through, like, okay, this person wants to log in with GitHub, but do they actually already have an account? Because if they don't have an account, don't let them log in.
Well, I was saying just get rid of the GitHub Google functionality from the login or sign up. Allow them to connect their GitHub to their profile, so then we can start pulling their information, show their KPIs on their dashboard.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That would be easier, wouldn't it?
So
It'd
for
be easier. I'm trying to think about how other websites use Gmail or Google and GitHub to log in, and then because I've done
yeah,
that.
a lot of them don't actually seem. It doesn't seem like they link up the accounts, because you can make your Gmail or Google account with some Gmail, but you can make your GitHub with another one, and then you can make another email. So you could technically have 3 different emails, but log in, and you'd want to link it up to one account. The one way I think maybe is if they create whatever and they get an account that they could go into their user settings and then link their GitHub or their Google through their user settings.
Yeah.
But the issue is mainly when they do that. If they use both accounts, then we're gonna potentially, like, in the back end have merge or anything it's just going to be a lot more data to work with for a migration or anything like that, which
Are you
isn't too
saying?
bad.
Sorry, I might be confused. Are you saying they would go into the user profile, connect either of those, and then be able to use that for authentication later?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, like my goal would be to connect the accounts, because it seems like most sites right now just treat the accounts as separate. Like, if you make an email account and if you make a Google account with the Google sign in, they're separate accounts. I haven't seen that many, or I haven't seen one that I can recall right now that link those up. But I guess that's what we need to discuss. Do we link them up or do we make them separate?
I mean, if we were to have it be separate, I would still have them be able to connect if they like connected through Google, and then we're able to go through the profile and just give them the option to connect their GitHub to get the metrics, so we could grab from the API. But besides that, I wouldn't use it for authentication from there. But if you wanted to venture that route of connecting all three,
so I have an
I
idea here. If they so when they first sign up, they have to sign up with email password. Then they can go into their profile and they can optionally link their Gmail and GitHub. And then when they try and sign in a future time, they could sign in to GitHub and then we'd say, "Oh, we don't have that link to an account. Which account would you like to link it to?" You put in your email and your password and it would link it that way. Or you could have previously done it in your profile. That way they could do it either way.
I feel like that would confuse them.
Maybe.
Because the whole point of the single sign-on is that you don't have to sign up with Google or you don't have to sign up with GitHub. It's just click the button and sign in with your account, and they'll accept it.
Single sign-on, like with Keycloak? Or are you talking about like?
No, I'm talking about just with another service. I forget the term. But exactly how we're doing it with GitHub and Google, how they're authenticating and we're just accepting that.
Third-party authentication? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's like the Vapor library is Imperial. I forget the actual term for it.
So, if it's not difficult, should we just assume that? Okay, this is my thoughts. If it's not that difficult to connect it, let's go ahead and make them be able to just sign up with just Google or GitHub. Because personally, I'm like, that's always the easiest option for me. And I'm like, I know other users also find it that way. So if it's not difficult, let's just do it at the get-go.
So just those are the only two options?
No. Have the option to
Oh.
either do email password or sign up via Google or GitHub.
It would. I mean, it would be hard to get those APIs set up, but from what Zach, if we want to go the route where we're connecting the three, the storing the information would be the hard thing.
I think the connecting will make it difficult. Like if you're trying to merge the accounts, like Zach was saying, if you have 3 different email addresses, I think maybe we could go through and figure out whether like the email, if it's the same email and there's already a registered email, that's the same with the one coming from GitHub. Then we can say, hey, we notice it's the same email. Do you want to combine? Do you want to connect these accounts? But then again, like what if GitHub, you signed up with GitHub with a different email address? So you end up having 2 different accounts, and at some point you're going to want to merge them for whatever reason. And I think that's too much of a headache.
I mean,
I
no one's
think
gonna go back after they create an account and then go through the sign up page again and then create another account with that separate thing, right? And if they did, then that means they would want a separate account.
The only thing I could think of is if they accidentally do it of, okay, I made an email or I made a Google account, and then I go into my settings and I link my GitHub, so then we can pull GitHub information and show their commit history or that stuff, and then they try to sign in with GitHub. Well, that's going to be a new account. That's what I'm trying to protect against, is just.
But if they're signed in and on their user profile, won't we know who they are? And wouldn't we be able to kind of update their user object and be able to say
I guess
the
if we
accounts are
do
connected?
I don't want to bike shed on this for too long, because if this is just an overcomplicated issue, it doesn't make sense to do it.
We could shelf this conversation. Just go with the separate accounts for now, and then while we're working on it or at a later date, try to discuss this, like have a meeting based around it.
We could also just make a spike for it for somebody to figure out how in the hell other websites do it.
Yeah.
True.
Also, I mean, if we want to see like how popular, like just for our members currently, having separate accounts for GitHub and their personal or whatever, we could just poll oneleif members, right? We could set up a poll and see what people say, just to get some idea.
Yeah, I guess we could do that. Let's shelf this conversation right now. As far as I see it, let's just go through 3 different types of ways to sign in / sign up. Keep them separate accounts and just move from there. We can always just remove any of the sign-in methods or do whatever we want with that. But personally, if I see the GitHub button, I press the GitHub button. So that's kind of my. It's like I'm going to use the GitHub one. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I'd use GitHub or Google
Same.
over actually entering in things.
So for our designer, we could design a version with just email and password, and then design a version where it has email, password, Google, and GitHub. Is that what I'm kind of gathering from this then?
Sorry. What? Oh,
Zach was looking up a resource for us. She was asking if designers should create 2 separate pages for sign in / sign up. One that has just email password, one that has email password plus the third-party logins. If I had to give input, I'd say just go ahead and add them, because we can figure out how they work in the future. And if we're gonna keep them separate, like, you'd still want all 3 of them.
Okay, and then we could prioritize the one with just email and password a bit higher, just because we know that can be made first. And then the one with email, password, GitHub, and Google can be kind of like still a priority, but just a little bit lesser for the design side.
there shouldn't be that much design on the Google or GitHub one, since they redirect us to a page or a web page. So I'm just trying to make that clear. it will most likely just be a button that says like log in with GitHub or log in with Google or sign in.
Okay, so it could be designed with the button, and then if it doesn't get figured out, you take the button off. All right, so going back into, let's say they already have an account, right? To sign in, they will either need their email password or log in with GitHub or Google. All right, and then let's see. After sign up, do we want to kind of tackle this beast?
Like how register should work?
Yeah, let's not get, well, I won't get super into it, but then like within discussion we can. So after they signed up, all right, what should happen next? Some sort of profile setup. What I believe is needed is first name, last name, social media links, biography, profile picture, and tags of their interests.
And
Correct?
this would also have like something to let them skip this, right? Since those aren't required values.
Yeah, there shouldn't. Like most of the things that come up right after sign in or sign up should be skippable or optional. We should really allow the person, if they want, to just dive in and do what they want. It's pretty open. And going back, most of the things that they'll uncover are like unlockability of writing posts. Posts should already be public, so we should already have quite a bit of, or we should already have the user onboarded per se some way, even if they haven't signed in because they've been to the website, which the experience is pretty much the same except they're the content drivers, if that makes sense. I don't know what else is hidden. Do you know anything, Sabian, for login and logged out?
Not that I'm aware of now.
Yeah, so then I don't think we need, yeah, it should just be something that's optional, comes up as a dialogue or, a button. But after that, I don't see much popping up or forcing the user to do that.
Also, with creating the password, I was wondering if we could have a discussion on what we would want to show for the validation errors. Would we want it to be more specific, explaining what's wrong, or just say your password's wrong and here are the rules for it?
If we were to do it right, we want it specific, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
best case user experience is like if my email's wrong, it tells me my email's wrong. If my password's wrong, it tells me my password's wrong.
Yeah, I'm saying like for the specific input. So if it was a password and it was like uh, 5 letters rather than 6, it should say, "Oh, must be greater than or equal to 6."
I'm a
Or
big fan
Do
of
we have password requirements?
huh?
Do we have password requirements?
We do.
Those should be stated like when they're making it then. When they're making their account for the first time.
Yep. Uh,
Yeah, I'm a fan of the checkbox ones. The ones that highlight green or, give a checkbox that you've typed it in.
at those.
Is it written anywhere what the requirements?
Uh,
That's a
I don't
great
know.
question.
I don't know if it's written anywhere. I had to dig through the code once to find it. I can see
Because
if I
I'll write
the
it up.
designer should know because
It's written in Swift.
Let me go
we
look.
should have it written out somewhere so you
Yep,
can
we
all
will.
see it. Okay. Do we? Oh wait, never mind. Sorry. What fields are required after signing up then? So when they're setting up their profile, are all those required? Is it just required to put their first name, last name?
I would say for people that have problems with privacy issues, none of them really are required.
Yep.
So none of them are required, but we do ideally want users to put these things
Actually,
in
username is the only thing that we should require. That way we have some way to reference their name and meet the team.
Well, also we have to imagine that anyone that joins that can optionally say that they don't want anything can also post. So, do we have any minimal requirements to post, or any minimal requirements to do anything in there that we would need some information, like a username, to even put the author name?
I think username is the only thing I could think of. Like, we don't need their first or last name because we could put that under author, and we could like, if we had like the little author thing on the side, like it's a blog post or something. We could have a, uh, you know, profile image not found, and then no name.
Yeah, I mean, we could just have a default image and then their username, and it
Mhm.
could take them to their profile.
I mean, we could just do, the whole like anonymous thing too, and
Only we would know the user that created it.
But is that a good user experience? Like, do I trust a whole bunch of posts on a site that it's like, what Joe Schmo wrote this,
Yeah,
Like,
The other thing is like you don't
yeah, I
know who they
trust.
are because that's like
it could say
against our whole thing
there's
of
their
community.
profile and it just says anonymous for their name.
I know, but like,
Hmm.
I'm trying to think, like, if I'm reading an article or something, like, oh, a really good designer, this company wrote this, I trust it, versus like,
I guess
oh, I
that's up
have
to the
no idea who.
users to decide if they have credibility or not. And if we ever had like a social media aspect to it where there were downvotes and upvotes, it
I
wouldn't look.
mean, yeah, we could just maybe, I don't know. And I'm not trying to further the cause of this idea. I'm just trying to get through it. Maybe we have anonymous if they could post. I'm just trying to get through what's the minimal thing that they need to post. And if they don't need the name, then I don't think like we require anything. And maybe we just hide any anonymous posts from public page, and you have to be logged in to see them, and it's even a filter or something like that. Like just I don't know. I'm just trying to get it going because that's the only thing we need is that. And
Gotcha.
if we can agree that that's required, then that's fine and we can move on.
I think the name should be required because surely if you're gonna put all the effort into creating a logging in into this thing, because like you said, the posts are public. You can look at the post, you can see almost everything. If you're gonna go through all the hassle of creating a lot, like signing up, you might as well just drop in a name, even if it's not both your first name and last name. Just drop your first name or something. Just drop something. I mean, even on the Discord, right? You're supposed to have your first name and last name show up next to your tag thing.
That's not even
Surely,
required.
like, well, it was. I think it was. You were supposed to at least.
It was
But
recommended but
surely,
not required.
my bad. But surely, like, you gotta have a name.
At the very least, a
I'm
username,
kind
something
of
to
siding
identify
with
yourself.
Sujon then. Yeah, something.
Okay, then I think we agree on that. Is anyone in disagreement that we should have anonymous submissions?
I feel like kind of like what you said, maybe anonymous, but only for like not public posts. So posts only being that are only able to be viewed by members versus like public ones. Other than that, I first name, last name should be required at the bare minimum. We should,
I think just username. I think first name and last name are optional.
I think username's required for. Yeah, I agree with Zach.
okay. But we should encourage users to put this information in.
Definitely.
I
Design
mean, yeah, I mean, this whole site's about kind of showcasing your information, so
Yeah.
it would kind of be self-defeating to not have your name.
That and we almost want to have like your resume and whatnot. Like it'll almost act as LinkedIn. So like
Yeah,
you almost want to
Yeah,
put your name.
and potentially the more they fill out in the profile, I mean, we
the
could
more it
even
helps
make up
them.
a footer or something like that for their post with, their bio, picture, name, and then GitHub and LinkedIn. And just automatically generated for if you want it or not.
Okay, so that is profile setup. What we basically decided is usernames required, everything else is skippable, but let's try to encourage users to provide this information because it adds to our validity as a company, but also for our individual members. the next thing, so let's say my profile is set up. The next thing that's going to display is some sort of user dashboard. This would be if you had an account already or just after you set up your account. I don't think we have to get super into this right now, but I'm just throwing that out there so people know.
Is the dashboarding included in V2?
I think it's a pretty high priority personally,
Okay.
That's
especially.
probably
Yeah,
a
but
another discussion.
would you? I mean, how would we manage that? Would it just be like the front end, takes the most recent stuff, or grabs the post, grabs new users or anything like that, or is that something the back end would need to supply for the front end for that?
I think that can be reserved for a conversation down the road.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, then other than that, I don't think it's a V2, right?
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's pretty high priority. I don't think it's not with GitHub integration, correct? It's just like what are the recent posts? How are your posts or like that stuff, right? Like activity.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then later we could add the GitHub. I guess we have to lay it out. I mean, V2, the deadline isn't as like like V1 had to get up there way quicker than V2 does, so we can kind of plan this out and take our time with it.
I feel like first or sorry, I guess V2 just cuz I think V2 V3 V2 if we want the dashboard to not be customizable and just kind of more here's the recents, here's your this but maybe like V3 it can be where they move around items and make it more custom themselves or something.
Yeah, because that's an animal on itself.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we have the sign in, sign up process nailed down, except for how we want to handle third party authentication.
I thought we agreed that we were just gonna handle it as separate accounts until we have further discussion on the topic because I don't know. Talking about it a little bit more, I don't see it being worth it to link the accounts for the level of effort that it is.
I think it at least warrants a little bit of investigation just to see if it's even like easy. Like maybe we just don't just happen to not know how it works, but it could be fairly feasible.
Linking the accounts or actually doing the login or the sign in.
Like linking the accounts that are back end, because like when you make a third party request, they just give you a token back. So if we just save whatever that token is in our system, then we know what account it's.
Yeah, but in our backend, that token maps into a user. So we have a request to take in the token and map it to a user. So if we do that and we already have, said user or anything like that, we could.
Mhm.
I feel like it's doable to work with. I feel like we should use Google and GitHub just as sign-ins and as testing purposes for the backend.
Agreed.
Okay, and that's all. Yeah,
Yeah,
then
me
I think
too.
I'm good.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
I think that's basically it. I feel like we'll probably have another meeting, or we'll probably have to make another meeting to discuss what this user dashboard is and should be. Um, but like as far as login process, I feel like we're pretty okay.
Mhm.
Do you think this, or Priscilla, do you think this was helpful? Do you kind of have more direction on what to design now?
Yeah, I definitely do. So I just want to run through what I'm actually designing out for the rest of this week, which is mainly the sign up screen, error messages, um, forgot password, reset password as well. Still,
Maybe it'd be easier to tackle error messages in another week because
okay.
that's a whole nother animal. But like sign up and sign in are gonna look very similar.
Yeah.
So I would focus on those two, and then like next week or whatever, we can work on, or you can work on error messaging.
Right. Sounds good.
Oh, sweet. Alright,
I have
anyone
one
else have
question.
anything?
I think Will asked that, but I wasn't really paying attention, sorry. But what did we say about the error message for the input? Did we say we're going specific with it? Like I think
So
you
Zach
mentioned
was saying
password,
that
for example.
Zach was saying he would like to have the check marks, like verifying that certain things have been entered.
Okay, so 8 characters, check mark.
That sounds like we need to use our own validation.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think I was waiting for this meeting to kind of decide, but I think it would be useful to use our own.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I'll take a look at your PR tonight.
Don't look. The PR is a little behind. Look at the one I have on in a different repository. I have a link in it in the Discord.
All right.
Alright, anyone have anything else?
Nope.
Alright, that was a good discussion. So thanks for everyone for tuning in. Yeah.
See you
If
guys later on the stream. Woo!
Oh, stream. Bye, everyone.
see ya.
Bye.
If any of the
See you
devs
guys.
want to stay around, we can discuss the required validation parameters.
So that means we need to update. I think the minimum right now is 6, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Actually, I don't even know.
No, I had it as 8.
Yeah, it is 8. Maybe that was something else I did at 6. Validate email. Validate.
Maybe I just made it up, man. Could have happened.
Right now the client side is just making sure it's not empty. So I can't look at that code.
So minimum 8 characters requires numbers and letters and requires 1 special character. That seems pretty average.
Yeah, we're not doing what is it? Uppercase.
Um,
Or is that too much? That might be too much.
that might be too much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer having one uppercase,
I mean, me
but
too.
I know other emails and stuff don't, so it seems consistent.
Whatever is just like standard is probably what we should do. I'm gonna hang out in this part of the meeting, but I'm just myself, so.
About what is it? Would it be best to have them put in a username right there as well, or wait until after they sign up, since we're gonna require the username anyway?
If it's required, I feel like we should have it in the register.
That's yeah. I don't know why we didn't do that. That's a
The
good idea.
problem with that though is, do they sign in with the email, or do they log in with the email, or do they log in with the username? Which one?
We could do it either or, but usually it would be email, right?
Not. I don't know. Because
You
if
can
you have
do
a
it.
username, you might as well.
I think we switched to email right now. So if they sign up with email and password, then they'll be prompted to display or give a username.
What I was saying is, do we want to require them to put the username when they're putting in the email and password?
That way it's
Like
not
they
a
want to
separate
have that feel
page.
as well. Mm-hmm.
Then when they go to the profile page, nothing is required. They already did all the setup on the sign up page.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Also, will we need some validation on the back end to make sure those usernames are unique?
That's what I'm thinking, and we'd have to do.
We could do the
Because-
Discord thing where they add the hashtag numbers afterwards so people can have duplicates.
You're right.
Well, whoa. Huh.
I
That's
feel like
interesting.
if we're displaying, like if we're only making the username required and then we're displaying that as their name for when they make a blog or a post, then like if two, because would we display the numbers with that too? Because like if someone has a pretty unique name but someone else has it and they both make a blog, who is it? Is it going to
Oh, that's dumb.
who it's attributed to?
Mhm.
That's dumb.
Yeah, we need.
If you're gonna go with a username, it has to be unique. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
dumb.
right.
Ah,
So that's kind of
Well,
why I wanted to separate it, at least, just because like the only way you know the email is unique is if you get an error from trying to create the email with the user from Vapor. We can change that, and we can also check for a username, but it'd just be easier on the back end if you had a separate call to check individually for a username, because at the point, if you ever want to change your username, like on GitHub, that needs that service to check that.
Yeah.
So if we ever do that, then we should make that also a target for this kind of feature of username being required and changing it too.
What about okay? So if they okay, so when we go to their profile, it's gonna be like oneleif.com/user/whatever username is, and if you change it, would it update your URL and make a new page for you? Just
oh
something to think
boy.
about.
Oh boy.
Yeah, yeah. Like on most
No,
sites,
Uh,
if
but
you update your
it would not redirect. So if you like for the
if
whole
we're
thing with GitHub, they do GitHub / your username, right? So when they
Hmm.
change it, they like kind of just drop like they help redirect for a bit, but they will like if you try to go to your old username, it doesn't redirect
Yeah,
at some
because
point.
we going to that username would make a call to the back end searching for that object, and then you would fill the page with that information that's stored in the object or tied to that object. So the path wouldn't change down, or the path would change, and it wouldn't really affect anything if we do it right.
Hmm.
unless they
The
like
only
link
way,
to their username from somewhere else, or
Yeah,
to that link.
we'd
yeah,
have to keep memory of like okay, 30 days. We'll keep memory if someone hasn't used that name and someone switched away from it, that it would redirect. But that's just kind of too excessive. Like we can always add that
Homeboy,
later.
if you're gonna change your username, you might as well go around and change whatever links you already
Yeah, that's a
at
good
this
point.
point.
Because you're like changing your
That's
online
how it
identity.
works.
Like if I were to change away from 8-bit, I'd
Yeah.
have to go change like everything.
Yeah, I changed mine on GitHub, and GitHub was just nice about it, which was cool. But I didn't even care to change my links. I was just like, let's just switch it, and I'll change it if I need to.
Like if your LinkedIn's pointing to your GitHub, or I'm hoping people's LinkedIn's will point to their OneLeaf. That would be cool.
Hey,
We'll overtake LinkedIn.
Sabian, can we have on that API interface documentation what register and login are supposed to return? Because I think login returns.
Yes.
Quit requesting logical things from me.
Whoa, what are you
If you go to oneleaf,
dev.one
yeah, we have docs for it. One AP, yeah,
api.oneleaf.com?
dev.ap. Hold on, I found it. I'll send the link. This needs to be a better URL.
You also should put it on the wiki somewhere.
God damn it, you're right.
Stop.
Stop being so
What are we
smart.
doing that? Did we figure out what we were gonna do with that token? Like where we're gonna put it?
No.
Because we said we didn't want to drop it in local storage, so we need somewhere to put it. Because if it was like in a cookie or something, then that's taken care of. But we get a token back.
It'll
Not
either be put in whatever database we're already using or like an S3 bucket on Amazon. That way it's encrypted and we don't have responsibility of it.
Then
Oh
how
no,
would
I'm talking about the front end people.
Oh,
because
sorry. Misunderstood.
if we come back to the site, how are we supposed to check? Like, would we I feel like it'd be just annoying to make a call to the back end every time they come back to the
Every
page.
single time.
They're
Yeah.
still logged in.
I guess I don't understand sessions well enough to understand
Why
that.
couldn't we just store it in the Why couldn't we just store it in the window?
No, if you store in the
Why
cookie,
couldn't we store it in what?
you'll come if you store it as a cookie or anything like that. At least in the old auth session, you could still keep it for a few days or that stuff, and you'll just log in to the Vapor session. You don't have to relog in.
That's what I'm saying.
And then on
Like,
the
why
back end,
can't
there's be some timeout that if you try to use that cookie again, it'll make you log in again.
Yeah,
isn't
but
there?
we just switched to JWT, so I don't know. I'd have to double check with Arcus on that.
I
Same.
think the logout right now for the session token's like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's some really long time,
Yeah.
which I kind of like.
I mean, if we store it as a cookie, we're able to see. I know I remember in the past we had a discussion about that might being a security issue, but I've never done it any other way.
I mean, I don't care. I started using JWT for Apple stuff, so it's just like JWT's the way to go. Let's use it.
I can't see how it'd be a security issue though, because like
It's just a token.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to log in to get that token, so you couldn't just like use it for somebody else's account unless you figure out how we generate them.
But I'm glad we looked into it a lot. So I'm glad we just didn't say, hey, next one. But yeah, no, good decision on using JWT, I'd say. Do we know
Well,
auth? Do we get that done for what the backend's checking for login? Do we have that in sync?
What do you mean?
Do you guys know what we expect for like validation and everything?
yeah, email, password. Email has to be an
I mean,
actual
I guess
email.
specifically
Password
for
is.
a password.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to
So,
clear that.
yeah, because for the vet register, we'll be doing that client side, and then login would be from the back end, correct?
Yeah, login. You guys do every single thing. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good thing to even check whether you have the right link. As long as there's something in there, send it.
Yeah, no, just for register when they're making their password, just to make sure that
Yep.
it's validated. Yeah, that's all I wanted to check. Where is that put in actual docs?
Saban just shared that link.
Just
It's
made
a
a
sign up.
page.
Oh, sign up. Okay, requirements.
It's on the wiki.
We
Okay.
need to check the Swift to see if that matches up with what it's
Yeah,
outlined.
that's what I was asking.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll double check this. How do we feel about using GitHub wikis? Do we like them? I mean, for kind of public face, I feel like we need them.
What else would you have in mind?
All I'm saying is that we have HackMD, and do we want to put stuff that is related to multiple projects in HackMD, or because if I update this and put this page, the sign up validation requirements on the oneleif backend website or the oneleif backend GitHub, well, then we have two places where it could be out of sync.
This is why we can move everything to the OL docs repo that we have. That was going to be for like the standards for contribution and how to use GitHub and all that jazz.
Yeah, so we do have that where we have all the assets and we could put, a big wiki there, but I mean, it's just pros and cons at this point, and we just need a standard to kind of
I'd say if we have the link to the HackMD pages anywhere in the wiki, it's because I mean, what we're doing right now is directing people to the project, and then they go straight to the README to get information. And from there, that's what I was trying to do with the website front end wiki was kind of like have a web or like a trail for them to follow, especially newer developers on how to contribute and how to learn about React and CSS.
So I also think there's another option too that I'll just really quickly say is that with HackMD, I think we can link up a Git or a GitHub file and have that like as a markdown file in here. So I don't know if that'd be useful other than README, because the wiki is not like a markdown file. Like you can't download it. Oh wait, clone this wiki locally. Okay, never mind. I lie.
So if I had to give just some personal input here, I like the GitHub wikis better than HackMD just because of the navigation on the right hand side. Because in HackMD, all you can group things by is tags.
Yeah.
Whereas in GitHub, you have that like navigation bar on the right hand side, which is like its own markdown, so you can organize things in what seems to be an easier
We
way
could
to
try to
understand.
have like a header on these markdown files with the links and stuff to try to create our own navigation.
I mean,
That would just be a pain.
Has that on the right if you do the right H1s and H that, but I think we need GitHub wikis because of people that are not in HackMD, are not in Discord, are not in our other forms of communication.
Yeah, it's a good point.
The wiki is what we got dinged on, but mainly I want to point out the kind of feedback that we got with T Northern saying that it was difficult to contribute. That comes from inside too. So just keeping that in the back of the head, how can we make it so that everyone can know, that someone can find this validation and work on it without, being in these meetings? That's just what I'm trying to prepare for. And I'm not saying that we have to drop everything and fix it right now. I'm just saying let's keep that in the back of our heads because we really want other people to contribute. And I didn't even know where this sign up validation requirements were.
I literally just made it.
I was looking, yes, no. And when I sent you the actual requirements, I sent you Swift code and I didn't even think, or you didn't yell at me to write it down in actual documentation. So I'm sorry for that. But yeah, I'm just gonna call that out. That's mainly my fault. But
This main influx has been kind of a smack in the face.
Yes, it has.
Unprepared we are to handle a large amount of developers.
Which is kind of the kick in the ass that we needed, I think.
Yeah. That's kind of what got me.
The second one is to quit my job.
Ooh.
I just bought gigabit Ethernet or internet, whatever. So I'm ready.
You can stream 4 different streams at the same time.
This is about to talk. I'm gonna get yelled at for buying something now.
Tomorrow I'm having a learn day at work, so if you have anything you guys want me to learn.
Yeah, figure out how to integrate third-party auth applications.
I'm looking at that into open source security.
On the somebody should go look at the OWASP guidelines, like the OWASP top 10 security risks. We should chit chat about those. You want me to post a link to that?
Sure, I'm writing it down on my whiteboard.
What a Chad. Writing down stuff on the whiteboard, dude.
I've gone so crazy here that I bought a fucking rolling standing whiteboard.
Dude, that's awesome.
I love it.
I just roll around my apartment all day.
He has a rolly chair and a rolling whiteboard so he can take his notes wherever he goes. Bathroom, I need to take notes.
I do not have a rolly chair, sadly.
I could just see you wheeling in the rolling whiteboard when you go to the shower. And you're like, oh man, what if I have a good idea while I'm in the shower? I need the whiteboard here.
I woke up last night with an idea and wrote it down on the whiteboard.
That's funny.
Dude, no. Once you get a whiteboard, it's just like you gotta write. You actually have to write down stuff on it. Otherwise, you made the dumbest decision ever.
I've always had one. This is just the biggest one I've had. Moving up in the world.
I love my whiteboard so much. I use it for designing, like new ideas and stuff.
So, where should I put organizing the wiki is almost something that we need to have an entire meeting for. Where do I even put the dev docs for the API?
Probably back end somewhere.
I was actually gonna look at it and kind of organize it better.
That would be great.
But have it on the back end website, and then on the front end, we'll have a file or some information that points to it.
Yeah, the way I've been doing things is just I've been putting all of the wikis on the back end, and then the nav bar on the right, you can link to the back end wiki, right? So it's just a link to the back end. So it sends you to a different repo, which can be a little confusing.
Yeah. I might have like a section that kind of explains that it's in a different repo connected to the back end, and then like an explanation of the API since there are so many beginners.
Well, that's one thing. Do you think is it because you don't have enough issues or because they're not beginner friendly issues? Is that why you think it's difficult for people to contribute?
A little bit of
A
both.
couple people have reached out to me, and I don't have beginner friendly issues right now, so that's kind of an issue.
We don't really have beginner friendly issues, though. This is the thing. Like right now, we don't.
Like the beginner friendly issue is kind of a misnomer because like the only one we've had so far that I can think of was the one that T Northern did, the media queries. The rest of them you have to kind of have project knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
And that's usually a hurdle because whatever project you're contributing to, you have to kind of go through and immerse yourself in the code a little bit.
And
that's always something though when you have a junior developer come on the team. I feel like just
senior developer sits down.
It's going to be us basically rewriting what they've done.
Yeah, that and like okay, think about how like big companies do it. Like if you go to a big company, what do? They have you sit down with the senior developer and work with them, right?
Yeah.
And I don't like can we commit that amount of time for all of our developers, you know?
Well, my company was when I started as an intern, I knew enough to just do UI. Like I knew a little bit more, but that's what they set me down to do. And I don't know if we can do that. setting people down and being like, okay, here's the design for a post. Can you just, kind of make the basic outline of it, and then we'll take it and move it from there.
The hard part about right now is we're trying to shove V1 out the door, So
Yeah.
like any of those easy UI issues, we'll just take it and get it done so that way we can have V1 done.
Yeah.
My last company, what they would do is just throw you in the deep end, have you do it, and just tear apart your PR. Like have like 100 comments.
Oh yeah,
That's
that's
also
always how it
perfectly
is.
okay.
That's part of hate.
Yeah, no, I think also the stream, we have kind of a project going on there, so maybe that will divert some of the beginner attention. But that doesn't excuse that we don't have beginner issues. Can anyone really quickly think on the top of their head anything in the project that could be maybe clear or like defined as beginner? Because if this is not a beginner project, then we can't just go around tooting our horn, being like, one leaf project, beginner. No, because a lot of people are going to join on, they're going to get burned out or just hurt because like an open source open group said that this is their project, this is open, this should be easy to join, and that wasn't easy. That's really going to turn people away from open source, is if they can't contribute to this huge open project that's supposed to be all encompassing. So yeah, I don't think it's anything that we can deal with except for getting other projects or that stuff to sidetrack until we have or are working on V2, where we have a little bit more leg room to actually do some features or make smaller tasks.
Zach, I think that's kind of what might be the beauty of us having this in an hour and a half. Zach and I are doing a stream where we would looked over the Google form that everybody filled out to try and figure out a beginner level project that everybody could hop on. I think that might kind of be our solution until V1 is done.
Yeah.
Or it might have to be our solution.
Yeah, at this point, Savvy and I are just trying to scramble to get beginners like started on anything. And then also a new project where people can jump on that aren't specifically React or Swift backend. So we have the iOS app for OneLeaf Go, and then we also potentially have a weather app. So we'll need a backend weather API to call from, and then just
Apple bought Dark Sky.
I saw that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I saw that.
Stupid.
The only thing that scares me about this is I don't know how many more projects I can take on before I lose my mind.
Yeah,
and I feel like I haven't been doing a whole lot on OneLeaf website as is, and I still feel like I'm all over the place. Just because I have my game and whatnot. So like, I don't know how we're gonna scale this up without like one of us having to like lead the project, so that way that we can give tickets to the new people and plan out the project.
I think definitely one of us will have to lead it. Someone's got to step up.
Yeah.
I don't see them doing it at all. No one's been that consistent.
No, yeah. That's why we have our core team, Are you two going to be on stream in an hour and a half?
I have no other plans.
Fabrice?
Probably.
Perfect, cool. You guys will have some awesome input for us on how we want to set up that project. We have a lot of announcements that we'll have to go through first, but the last majority of the stream will be talking about how we're going to set up a beginner-friendly project.
Oh, is this one going to be the weather one?
That's what Zach and I were thinking, because it's like we were talking about making like a RuneScape API or League of Legends API, and that's kind of like interest-based, whereas weather is useful for everybody, and it's kind of almost a professional topic, So just about anybody could find value in it.
How big is it going to be?
We don't know.
Is it going to be big enough for a lot of people?
We have no idea.
If anything, we could kind of just say, fuck it. Maybe we're not like, maybe we're, what's the word? Underestimating them. What if we like set up the project, had a description, and made the issues for what they need to do,
and say, go do it. We'll review
and
it.
just say, go do it.
And that's kind of why Zach and I are starting our YouTube series, our tutorial series. I think I may have to postpone my C# one and do a Git one, because finding Git knowledge, it seems like every team does things differently. So even if they go watch a YouTube series, they may not do it how we do it. That and a lot of open source places are lacking documentation on how this stuff works. Yeah.
I say if we set up the issues for how they need to be done and then like numbered the order they need to be done in, I feel like
They
if we
can't
put
go
the
wrong,
on the tickets, they'd be able to Google the things to figure it out.
That's
yeah,
fair.
but we are all talking from a point of understanding that our project is easy to join on, or they are at some point that they can understand what we're working on. We also have to think that they can potentially just start their own projects and we can join their projects to help them understand the knowledge that they are working on instead of trying to understand all the knowledge that we've put into this whole system.
Yeah.
So from teaching, well, I guess not anymore C#, but from a Swift standpoint for the streams of weekly teaching kind of that, hopefully we can get people onboarded enough with a language that they are interested in enough to just make their own thing. And instead of us trying to keep bringing these projects and us trying to satisfy these people's hunger with what they need to learn, they can do that on their own. Like I did that on my own with, making projects and that stuff. Like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it, but like you can easily make your own projects and learn from that and move to another project. And if, like, let's say 5 newbies do that, or that would be a huge number. I would love to check out their projects. And that's a lot less stressful than us leading new projects and us carrying the burden to get the projects done and us carrying the whole burden of having meetings on the projects and then having, hey, are the newbies understanding this, or did we actually just lap them and now they're just confused and waiting on tickets?
Zach, I think you may be onto something there. Maybe what we don't do is start a big project again, like the OneLeaf website, because we're going to run into the same issue where it's going to be complicated and they have to get onboarded. Maybe what we do is instead focus on how we can help them start their project and basically get like a series of steps to set up your GitHub repo, a series of steps to plan out your project, and then like how they can bring members on and run their own project.
Yeah,
That
I
seems more
think
sustainable, you know.
I think maybe we should lean away from the community project that we were talking about. I've been half and half about it.
Same.
But if we promote personal projects that we can help and jump on and just kind of mentor them as they work on it, or give them assistance as they work on it, then I mean I'm still just going to do the One Leaf Go app
It
for
is
Swift Market.
it is much less stressful for somebody to say, "Hey, I have this issue. Can you help me with it?" than, "Hey, I need work to do on this project. What can I do? And how do I get started?"
Exactly. I think they need to be more in the meetings to at least, even ask the question of like, hey, should this be worked on, or should I work on this, instead of what should I work on?
I think I see what you guys are saying. We're doing it the other way around. Because especially like if you have one project and we made that project and have them contribute to that project, you gotta explain everything to them. And
Yep. Whereas if they start their own project, they
if
know
it's
everything
their
about it.
own project, yeah, and it's much easier for us to understand something from their project than for them to understand something
Like for the
from a
One Leaf
project
website,
that we set up.
for example, like Fabrice, Will, Arcus, like everybody's been along for the ride. I think it was a little bit easier to onboard designers. I don't want to downplay all the work that Susie's done, but like getting someone to the point where they can even understand what our goals are for the entirety of like how the front end and back end would work just seems like an insurmountable task with how far we are now. So I kind of like sticking with the team that we have for the One Leaf website, and if we have more senior level people that want to hop on and like on a structured project, that would be more of the way that we could go with the One Leaf website. But setting people up on their own smaller projects seems like the way to go.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, I kind of thinking about it now, I imagine any of our projects that we have that we create as One Leaf projects are more of stalagmites,
You
of
cut
like
off.
Yeah, you cut off.
stalagmites and stalactites. How
What?
I'm confused.
so our projects are like in the ceiling, they're harder to reach, but if they start where they
Oh,
know their knowledge, then it's easier for us to come down and help them. I'm not saying that we're higher than them and that stuff, but there's a gap, and we can't ignore that there is a knowledge gap, and people can't just jump onto a project that we think we documented enough or we think we understand enough because we have a different lens or a different backpack of knowledge for this. So yeah, last thing I'll say is I guess during the stream we'll promote and try to get more personal projects or community projects, albeit if they're basic or not or anything like that. So idea generation would really help during
Yeah,
the stream.
that's exactly what I was about to say.
I always say, like, if you want to make it a basic iOS app or a basic, web app, make a temperature converter, even, in the terminal, or like just things like that people can start. They can either make it in the terminal or do something, and then they can move from that and make it into an app or call from an API or just start understanding that more.
And the other thing that we could stress is duplicating a project. Like being unique is not something that you're going to get at their level. Um, what they should strive for is to duplicate someone else's work and understand it, so that way they can move on to their own thing. So like, if one team of more senior level people is working on a website or a weather application or website, then somebody else should do the exact same thing in a different framework slash language and basically duplicate what
Hmm.
they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound as exciting, but that's a very good way to learn. Like if you
Exactly.
can duplicate it, you go through all like probably all the same steps. You encounter usually similar problems, and that's part of the learning process. It's hey, these are the problems you can encounter this, and you got to figure out how to surmount those.
So yeah, what may be the way to go about this is Zach makes a Swift backend and a Swift app for a weather. I make a C sharp backend and a C sharp front end, and then we say, okay, what you guys are gonna do? Take whatever language or framework you want and make exactly what we made. It's not even gonna be difficult. It's gonna be a pretty simple. It just tells you what the temperature is outside right now, and you could switch it from like Fahrenheit to Celsius. That'd be super simple, but everybody set up your own project. We'll help you set it up. Um, but we don't want to onboard you onto our projects because that's almost more work than just about anything else.
You have to onboard them if you're going to make a fucking project, and they have to look through it.
That's fair.
Like, I would tell them, if you want to make a website, then what kind of website do you like, or what websites do you like? Just make something super simple. Like, the thing is, if it's simple, you have motivation and you learn from it. Those are the three things that make a good project and you can build from. If you don't, then that's where people get stuck. They can't get through the project, they don't learn from it, they get stuck. They go online and the code gets more confusing and more bugs and more copy paste. We want to prevent that, them to know their code and make it simple and a project that they can understand every component. I always try to break down, like, I'll always go back to it. An app and like a temperature app, all you need just a text field to take in some text. You need a button, and then you need to change a label for which one it is or anything like that. Just breaking it down so they can understand that, because I don't think a lot of people can even understand what a website or what an app or what a game, what basic stuff are. It's more of like it's just there. And that's kind of pulling back to what I used to think of games and that stuff. I never thought of them as basic. Okay, this is a view, and then this is, a label, and then this is a button, and then this is some space, and, just things like that. I thought of it all as just kind of like, okay, it's there, and I'm interacting with it. So just getting people to understand that would definitely help. So I guess, yeah, circling back on the whole topic, I don't think maybe we should promote the whole project. We should just have them start something they're interested in the terminal or on the web or something like that. It seems like it's a lot of stress and a lot of annoyance for us to scream out into the void of oneleif and expect people to join on to our not really junior level or even high school or college level project. I think if we actually want to onboard people onto it, and this is the last thing I'll say on my rant, uh, we actually need to sit them and talk them through what we have right now and what we expect for each version, because it's kind of just being like, it does this and it does that. It's very confusing. And until we sit them down and say what we have and what we're going for, I don't think they'll understand what we're doing.
Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
All right.
You could also do this on the side of design, right? Like, oh, this one's making it for Android, this one's making it for iOS, this one's making it for web. And you could have designers just like, these are super, if it's super simple, it's simpler to design too. But they could work on their design skills by, you know, working on something that they haven't done before, any of those platforms or something. Just throwing that out there.
I think for the stream and for a little bit while everyone's kind of barred in because of the situation and we're all focused and have our busy lives, I think maybe we just promote like self projects and oh, what was the word? I forgot. Yeah, just really starting the projects on their own. I'm trying to think like examples, but I can't think of any.
I think. Sorry. Go
No,
on.
no, no, no. I'm just talking out loud. I'm sorry. I had what I thought and now I forgot. But yeah, I guess just really teaching self promotion, like projects, and self learning. I don't know. I feel bad that we're always trying to expect people to join us. I feel like we should, inspire people to work on their own projects instead of convince them to try ours. Um, I guess yeah, it's just building actually a little bit more relationship instead of just expecting them to go to our project and contribute. But yeah, that's the last thing I'll say. Keep rambling.
We could say like
The
something like, this is a good time to work on your own skills, hone your own skills while you're stuck at home or something like that.
the only issue I think you would run in with self projects is if you have, you have random people underestimating projects, and so they'll show up with something they think is a basic project, but is like in fact actually really complicated. And
Yeah,
then you
so
have
giving
like
examples
50,000
would
of
be
them.
really
Yeah,
important.
you have 50,000 of them reaching out, trying to get like somebody to help them on their project. So yeah, while the projects aren't necessarily that complicated, you still have to go through different projects and understand them. That would be the only downside to that. But I do like the idea of like setting up a backend, because that's usually part of, especially if it's not just something you're displaying, you're gonna be getting your data from somewhere. So if you're gonna talk to a backend, I like the idea of having like for the weather app, just having a backend, even if you don't have them use it like straight away. It can just be static for now, and then once they've gotten good enough, and once they've reached a point where they can call the backend, you can have them call the backend. And at the same time, you can have people who don't want to work on front end, people who want to work on back end. You can have them sort of build that.
Yeah, so to
So
start for front end
like
people, we could just give them like a text file that they parse with the weather data until they get sent the data.
not even that. Just have them, I don't know, somehow randomly give them data somehow. It doesn't even need to be as complicated as parsing a text file.
That's fair. We could just give them like literally just have them put a list of numbers in for temperatures if we're doing a temperature app.
Exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
think I
no,
think
I think
go ahead.
that's also another good topic, Fabrice, is not always dedicating to, a live source, having mock data or just, making something and making it to then be added to. If they, for temperatures or that stuff, for weather, if they just put in a ton of dummy data, oh, it's 72 for this whole week, and blah blah blah, and then they just make the app based on that. I think it would be good because then they don't have to context switch from like, okay, I'm dealing with an API and now I have to deal with JSON data and then parse the data.
Yeah.
And they
Because for
just
the
worry
longest of
about.
time,
Hmm.
that was a huge thing for me. Like I knew nothing about outside data. Like how do you even connect? How do you get stuff? Like I had no clue how to do that. That was the biggest thing. And half of the time I'd be like, you know what, I don't even want to work on this project if I have to be um, consuming an API. So you just let them do something with static data, and once they're comfortable enough with that, you can have them consume APIs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I stuck with all my apps being on device, like fully apps, so they didn't call any API or do anything outside. It was just a user and my application.
Hmm.
And some of those were as simple as like a tap game, just being like, okay, I showed this view, start, the timer and or get the time right now or the epoch. And then when they tap, get the epoch. And then how much time was that? Like just making simple tap games or click games or, things like that. I think maybe we should try to generate a list in OL Docs and try to just help people. But it's really their interest, right? Like we can't just have this
That's
whole
true.
thing
Yeah.
like, hey, go to this list. You haven't found an idea? What? You must not be really trying, or you must not be passionate like me. Um, they might want to do Python machine learning, and that might have its own, first steps. Like we're talking about right now, doing APIs or weather and that stuff. Like to go down paths that we haven't gone might be entirely different than we're trying to teach. So
Yep.
Yeah, for those
we
people in the
really need
forum,
to reach out for Python.
yeah,
Like that is our weakest link.
and machine learning. Like
So
if somebody
many
said I
Python people, man.
and so many people that want to do machine learning, and it's like I don't even know what to tell you.
I get, yeah, just start being
Look
like,
it
I'm gonna work
up.
this.
Send them
Or
google.com
if statement.
slash
Here's how you take input, and here's an if statement.
good luck from here.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I think Zach and I were kind of on the right route then, starting these YouTubes or the tutorial series, starting them from the language basics, teaching them Git, and then doing really 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 simple projects and doing a bunch of them so that they can get examples of how to do each individual thing, and then that gives them a platform to basically go off and do their own thing. That
yeah,
might be the best way to go about this.
because there's so many of them too. Because you can't really um hold their hands. There's way too many of them,
Yeah.
and especially what they're interested in might not necessarily be what your area of expertise is.
And that's so
So,
like I had a bunch of people that are like, "Yeah, I want to help on your game." And I was like, "Do you have any programming experience?" They're like, "Yeah, I've done like one line of JavaScript." I was like, "Fuck." Uh, let me send you some links on C sharp, and then once you figure that out, oh wait, you don't know computer science. Fuck. Let me send you some links on computer science, and then it just keeps going down the path of like, man, I didn't realize how much I know. Like that got me to this point of being able to even do anything.
yep.
Um, So I think promoting like the web developer roadmap, just teaching them simple basics of the language, teaching them Git, um, those type of things will benefit them more than just saying hop on a project or start a project on your own. Those might be the best things we can promote right now, I think. And then getting people active and asking questions is probably the other best thing that we can do.
Hmm. But I mean, once they have their own projects, that'll come on its own. Because they're gonna get stuck at some point, and they're
Exactly.
gonna want to reach out.
So I think just offering like a consultation, I don't want to say service, but basically saying you want to do something, ask us what you can do that will get you to that goal. Basically saying like I want to do Python, we're like, okay, step 1, learn the syntax. Step 1 or step 2, you're going to have to learn how the hell computer science works, like the fundamentals. And then, step 3 is, all right, let's make a super basic application.
You see, what I find interesting is like with all those machine learning people, like I wonder if they actually want to do machine learning or if it's just, it's they're hot topics right now.
Yeah, it's the current golden apple.
Yeah. So or are they gonna really want to put in the effort for stuff like that? Like for the game stuff too, for example, there's a lot of physics in it. Like, are they gonna really do anything with? Do they really want to do that, or you just want they just want to make a game?
Yeah, I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there because people have joined. They're like, yeah, I want to work on a game, and then they're like, wait a minute, I know nothing. I just like the idea of working on a game. And then
Yeah.
you send
Yeah,
them to learn C sharp or something, and they're like, just kidding. I didn't want to do that.
that's what I saw. I was going in like 4 or 5 years ago when I went into my university to like check it out. They had this kind of gaming thing, and I went for a game concentration in computer science. But I saw a guy in this room at open house, and he was playing the game or whatever on the computer when I walked in, and it was like obviously a capstone or a grad student or whatever's game, and he was playing it by the time I left, and he didn't ask any questions other than play the game. And I knew from that point, I'm like, okay, there are gamers that want to be game developers or make games, but they just game, and it's really tough because they don't realize like up until it's like, yeah, you need to learn like quite a bit of the stuff, right, Sabian? Like I think
Oh
you're
my
just
god,
saying.
yeah. Like even just math alone for Unity. It's just like a completely separate topic that you like. I didn't realize how much background I had.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I don't want to touch on it too much. Um, Sabian, did you want to chat about Cody and Sarah?
Yeah, yeah. Zach and I have a little separate meeting that we have to go hold on how we're gonna handle PR.
Okay.